you for coming to the webinar. Today I'm going to be covering using loops, which is the latest and greatest bit of functionality in Workspace Studio Flows. You may have seen some of my sessions before on Workspace Studio Flows and what you can do with them. They're generally used inside Google Workspace to connect your tools together through a simple drag and drop style interface for automation. Today I'm just going to cover some of the things that are coming to Workspace Studio Flows, so something to be excited for in the future as well, and a reason to start using it now. Before then jumping in and actually talking you through how I would go about building 2 or 3 different flows, depending on how much time we have available. Specifically, the flows that I'm going to go through are going to be getting your chat context. So Google Chat is traditionally as known to be quite hard to get information from. It's not very extensible with APIs. It's not the easiest platform to collect information from, so connect up to many of the AI tools that you may have access to. However, with Gemini, we can actually get access to our chat histories. And what I'm going to show you today is how you can grab that information out, put it into a spreadsheet so that your other AI tools, or actually Gemini itself, can leverage that information in a much more structured way. I'm also going to show you how to do competitor research and then get that information into a Notebook LM document. And I'm going to show you, if there's time, how you can turn your meeting notes into tasks, or maybe something similar to that. But quickly, I just want to mention there is a really good, like 13-minute video that I'll share after this of the product owner of Workspace Studio Flows talking at Google I/O about what's coming to Workspace Studio. And what was very clear from that webinar is that they are treating this definitely as a full first-party app that Google is going to continue to serve for a good, reasonable amount of time, as opposed to be one of their labs tools that gets potentially sunset. They are absolutely trying to make it easier for you to be able to build flows. So inside the sidebar in Gemini, soon you'll be able to just message Gemini about the thing that you have. So if you've got it open in Gemini, in Gmail, you could say to your Gemini, create a flow for me that does X, Y, or Z when I receive one of these emails. And it'll take all the context from that email, it'll create your flow for you automatically, and then you'll have that available for you in Workspace Studio Flows. So they're trying to make it so that Gemini can actually build these flows on your behalf. So to even remove some of the skills that I'm going to show you today. I would say though, having the skills of building these things yourselves means that you can do much more complex things than what this is going to enable you to do initially. And you should know how they work anyway, and not just rely on an agent to build one for you. The other thing that they were very clear on was that the ability to connect this to third-party apps is coming back. So 2 different ways. One is going to be through vendors that actually have a full integration with Google Workspace Flows. So that would be like Asana, Monday.com, Salesforce, most likely, like the big SaaS vendors that you're used to integrating with really easily. And the other one is through apps that you could build. And if you saw some of my webinars early on, you would have seen that I built quite a lot of my own custom apps within AppScript that I could then call from my Workspace Studio Flows. And that was really, really good. It meant that there was a huge amount of customizability that I could do. So I could go and connect to Salesforce if I wanted to through my own app. The other things that are coming, just quickly as well, Notebook LM integration. That obviously, if you've been in there, you know that already exists, and you can pull information from your notebooks. One of the exciting features that's coming is that you'll be able to push information into notebooks. So if you've got a automated workflow that does research for you, you'd be able to automatically shift that information into a Notebook LM workbook, and then use that as your sort of basis for information. So if you wanted to look up your competitors and understand what your competitors were doing week on week, and then have that referenceable, you could easily do that through that kind of mechanism. And you'll also be able to use Gemini Enterprise agents as well. So if you're on Gemini Enterprise already, inside there is agent space, or now it's called Gemini Enterprise, that enables you to basically create agents that do things on your behalf. Your flows will be able to use those too, much like they can use Ask Gemini and they can use Gems at the moment. So if there's any agents you already have and you're using, you'll soon be able to trigger them programmatically through this flow too. And then I think I've already covered most of this. So connectivity, third-party apps, app scripts, custom functions, but also webhooks. So again, if you're maybe part of the developer community or you've had experience with connecting systems together, an incredibly easy way of connecting systems together is webhooks, and they are, you know, standard kind of web technology that people use regularly for pushing data from one system to another. You'll soon be able to ingest webhooks and send webhooks with the Studio flows. So if you ever need to send data to somewhere else, then you'd now be able to do that when this gets released. Well, it didn't say was when any of this was actually coming out, but it's good to hear that they're talking about it, and they're talking about this kind of stuff way more regularly than they have been in the past. So great. The only other caveat that I want to mention, there are now, or there have been for the last, say, 2 months, limits with how many flows you can have and how often your flows can run. So you can have up to 25 flows created in your account. Up to 25 of those can have triggers with Gmail at the start. I don't know why. They stipulate that you can't have more than of your active flows can be started by Gmail when you're only allowed 25, but I thought I'd mention it. And you can only have 20 steps in a flow. So that one I've known since day one, and I've mentioned, but you can only have 20 steps in a flow. The other one that is super unknown and means that I would say flows is not to be used for mission critical applications unless you know the volume is going to be low, is that you do have a daily limit of how often these flows can run. And I've hit that limit, but I don't know what I did to necessarily hit that limit. And what it means is all of your flows are paused until tomorrow. So if you have mission critical things that you need, then Studio flows is not necessarily the place for that right now. And there's no way for you to see how much of your usage you've used, like maybe when you go into Claude and you go to usage, or Codex and you go to usage. So bear that in mind. The limit itself gets you largely through the day, but I think the workflow in particular that I had running that maxed me out was every single time I received an email, I would auto categorize that email with a specific label to put it into a folder of my Gmail. I assume I received a number of emails that day, which took me over the limit, which makes me think that the limit is relatively not huge for each individual. And I would imagine the limit goes up based on what tier of Google's AI services you're on. I don't know that for sure either. There's very little documentation. Now into the session. So I'm going to delete these steps out. I've just got them in here just in case I wasn't able to cover this in time. And we'll do this together. We'll build everything from scratch, including a new spreadsheet to store this information in, just so that you can see how I would do it. Feel free to follow along. I'm not going to do anything exceedingly quick. I'm also not going to necessarily pause waiting for you to do stuff. You know, the recording is there as well. But I'm going to talk through what I'm doing and what I'm thinking as I'm doing it. So the first one that I think is really, really relevant, potentially everyone on the call, is being able to get information out of your Google Chat. And today I'm going to be focusing on tasks that I need to do, but you may have other types of information that come into your Google Chat that you need to get out. And you could obviously tailor a workflow like this to get that kind of information out too. So before we start, let me just delete all this. We'll see how good my memory is on rebuilding it, or if we build it in a different way. All of your workflows start with a trigger. They did mention in that webinar that they're going to enable you to be able to write your own custom triggers in the future as well. So if you've got something that happens and currently there is no trigger for it, if we look at the triggers, these are the only ones available right now. You'll be able to write your own, which is decent. For mine, I'm going to choose a schedule. I only want this to run once a day. I want it to run before I plug in for the morning. and I want it to go and get my tasks that people sent to me yesterday that maybe I haven't completed or I've forgotten about, which is quite normal. Apologies. I'm going to make this run once every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to make it repeat every day. And I want this to finish never, because I will always be sent tasks by people over Google Chat, I'm sure. Inside Showmore, just in case you don't know, there are also controls for you to change the time zone if you feel like your flows are running at the wrong time. My next step, I need to get information out of Google Chat. So how do I do that? There's no step here for me to get information out of Google Chat. I don't know why half my icons aren't loading. You may have icons. I unfortunately don't have icons. But yeah, the only thing that I have for Google Chat is to notify me in chat. So there's no like retrieve chat message. There's no message a certain channel. There's no retrieve information from a certain channel or a certain person. But what we can do is we can use Gemini to look at our Google Chat because it has access to it. So it's giving me a prompt that it's got nothing to do with what I want it to do. It does that automatically based on what your workflow looks like. It tries to determine what it thinks you want to do. Before I start typing my prompt, I'm just going to make sure that my Google Workspace is definitely connected, because this is how it will get access to your Google Chat. I'm going to turn off web search, because what I don't want Gemini to do is go off onto the web and try and figure out if I have tasks on the web. They don't exist in this context for me. I'll turn off web search. You can, if you want to, choose specific sources, and then you can choose somewhere in Drive that you might know where information comes from if this is for a different use case. But for this one, I have to choose Workspace to be able to get access to Google Chat. And you'll notice down at the bottom here, this new feature is specifically for loops, which is for how Gemini should respond to you. Text is the traditional one, which if you've used this before, sends you back a blob of text. You can't really use it for much other than like pushing it to one place. It sends you back one thing. List sends you back multiple things. So it could send you back one, it could send you back none, it could send you back 20 or 30 different things. And then we can loop over those things, which we'll do later on in this workflow. For this, I'm going to choose list. And the type of list that I'm going to create is, I might just choose task. I won't, but I'm going to choose task so that you can see it. In here, we have task title and task description. This is just like a standardized list that you may wish to use. You get the standardized list for email data, which will return recipient, subject, and message. You'll get standardized list for simple list, which will just be like one item, one item, one item. But I actually want this to be custom. What I don't yet know is what I want my custom list to be, because I don't yet know really what I'm going to be able to get out of Google Chat. So what I'm going to do first in my prompt is I'm just going to ask it to go and retrieve some information from Google and then tell me actually what kind of information would be relevant for me to capture for my particular use case. And I'm going to hit test and we'll see what information comes back. So you have to forgive me because I'm going to type stuff now. I'm not very good at talking and typing, so there will be a few moments of silence. If somebody could fill the time by singing a nice song or humming something, that'd be fabulous. Thanks, Lola. I see that you put your hand up there. Great.
I did not, but I then
saw the emoji come in first.
We might have to add this to our hiring parameters. Can you talk and type?
Yeah. So can you please find me tasks from Google Chat that were sent to me yesterday? Can you also tell me what information we can find on these tasks, like who assigned it to me, when it might be due, what else? A link. Now, AI is probably good enough now to be able to know what the date is today. In the past, it's been awful at knowing what the date is today. So I'm just going to include today's date. And I'm going to include that as a variable just so that it knows. So inside Google Workspace Flows, you have variables for every step that's gone past. So at the moment, I've only gone past one step. So I only have one step that I can pick a variable from. But what I'm just going to include is the start time. Move that back up there. That was helpful. Which puts that into the prompt. So now knows what today's date is, so it can at least look back. The thing that I haven't said, yeah, sent to me yesterday. So I guess that's within the last 24 hours. It's going to make that assumption. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to be a task list, just so that it knows how to return the information back. And then we're going to test this. So I'm going to hit start. This is actually looking at my Google chat. So I guess we'll see what people are messaging me. Hopefully nothing sensitive. We'll see. So where Lola panics.
Actually, because I think I'm going to be on that list of our seat. I knew it.
So these are my tasks, and you'll see it's pulled back purely task name and task detail. What it hasn't done is actually given me a good response. That's because I need to choose text. It basically, what Gemini does, if you choose list, it will try and match exactly the information that is found to the data that you've said that it should provide to you. And we'll create a custom one of these in a minute, just so you can see how that works. But what I want is for Gemini to tell me what the shape of my object should look like. So I'm not even needing to create this myself. Obviously, I can make an assumption, but Gemini will tell me what kind of information it can get back from Google Chat to help me. So let's have a look what comes back this time. Here we go. So we've got the assigner, the due date, the task, the link to the chat. Why don't we just include that for now? Yeah. For this example, that's probably enough. You could obviously decide to add more if you so wish. I'm going to go to the list. Instead of choosing task data, I'm going to choose some custom data. Inside the first field, I'm going to give it a name. So this is the name of the field. Let's say it's task name. And then I'm going to add another one. Task description. Due date. Link to chat. And I'm actually going to add another one, which is like the urgency. Now I need to describe to Gemini what kind of data it's looking for in the information that's found about my Google chat from yesterday. So I could go over to Gemini and say, I'm doing this thing with Studio Workflows. I need descriptions for these different fields, but I'm just going to quickly type them in. It will do a good enough job of determining what these things should be anyway. Forgive me for the sheer amount of typing that I'm going to have to do quickly now. Name of the task, short and brief. A longer description of what the task is to do. Potentially a direct extract from the person. Due date, when the task is due. If it is available. If the task isn't available, then set no date. Or maybe I could say, give it a week. Obviously, you can decide what the default should be. It's a great place to put defaults in these descriptions. So if you don't get a value back, what should the default be? Link to the chat. And then urgency, use high, medium, low. Based on the sentiment of the message. Great. Now I'm going to hit test. Hopefully that's saved. Yeah. Now I'm going to hit test. Start. And we'll see what comes back. You could do the same thing, by the way, for Gmail, for Google Sheets that you may have access to. So now I've got task name, task description, due date, link to the chat, and urgency. that I can now do something with. So let's do something with it. I'm going to add it to a spreadsheet. So, and I'm going to use that spreadsheet in my, either in my morning Gemini step or in my Claude getting ready for the day step, just so that I know what all my to-dos are from all my different sources for the day. So I need to create a spreadsheet. I won't create one from Google Workspace Flows. I'll create one inside Google Sheets. Let's go blank spreadsheet. And then obviously I need to give this spreadsheet a name. Luke's Google Chat tasks. And then I need to match the fields on my my Ask Gemini step. So I'm just going to copy these out so that I can add them into my spreadsheet. Did I not copy them all? Guess not. Task description, task name, due date. Cool. So now I've got my headers in this spreadsheet, and I can now use this in my Google Workspace flow. So next I'll add a step, and that step is going to be to add a row to a spreadsheet. So what I'd do traditionally, so I'd add a row. I'd go through the setup stage of adding a row, and what that would do is I would add a big fat lump of text into one cell in this spreadsheet. But because we've got access to loops now, we can actually loop over each of the items that Gemini came back to me with, because I've chosen the list option, and I can add them to individual rows in this spreadsheet. And that means I've got much more structured data. If I've got a workflow, for example, where I look at my emails for one, and I create a list of emails that I haven't yet responded to in a spreadsheet, I could then the next day go through that same list of emails and mark any that I have responded to as done, so that I have a mental model quickly of just what I need to do and how I need to do it. You can do the same with this process. So let me delete that. And actually now I'm going to add repeat for each step. So this is repeat for each item of a list. I'll click off this just so that you can see that there's a difference between sub steps and the actual step itself. So this actual step itself requires a variable, and that variable needs to be a list. Now there's two different lists that you can provide to this. One is from Gemini, the way that we just created this list. The other one is, if I quickly add get sheet contents, and I move it up. The other one is directly from a spreadsheet. So if I put in a spreadsheet step, to get the contents from that spreadsheet, each row in that spreadsheet is automatically going to come back to me now as a list. So individual items in a list, and I can loop over these individual items in that list. So there's two different variables that you can provide. One is from Gemini, a list. The other one is from a spreadsheet. I'm going to use Gemini for this. I may swap it to a spreadsheet in a moment. So let's bring in that full list from Gemini. And now for every one of the tasks that is found in Google Chat for me, I'm going to add a row in my new spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So add a row. And I'm going to choose my spreadsheet. Hoping it's this one. There we go. Choose the sheet. I've only got one sheet. I'm going to decide if I add it to the top or if I add it to the bottom. I'm going to add it to the bottom. And then it's giving me the headers in that spreadsheet. So that's why I set the spreadsheet up first. I put the headers in there so that I can map my list variables to the spreadsheet. So task name, I'm going to go variables. I'm going to go to my repeat for each step. In here, you'll see that I have each item of task name, list item. So every time that this loop runs, it's going to pick the next thing in the list. And so for my first one, I think it was like some SLT action for me to do. It will go through that one first, and then the next action, maybe it was from Christina, I can't remember, the next action, and then the next action. So I'm going to choose task name, task description, due date, link to the chat, and the urgency. And now if I hit test on this, we should see Gemini pull that information back for me. It repeat for every single step in that that list and add one item to that spreadsheet for me per item in that list. Here we go. You can see it repeating. So it's added 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. I got a link through to the spreadsheet, and I now have 3 tasks. I was expecting 4. I don't know why I have 3, but hey ho. Maybe one of them didn't work properly. There we are. That's confusing. Either way, I now have some information in a spreadsheet, which is different to what you may have had before. Now it's pulled some information out of my Google chat. I would obviously go ahead and I would refine my prompt, make it more specific, talk about things I want to try and avoid coming into this, talk about tasks potentially that would be closed off in the same day. I also, when I ran this before, a lot of my tasks were like thinking about setting up meetings with people. Often those meetings would already be in the diary. So I'd get it to go and look at my diary and determine if those meetings were actually already scheduled into the future or not, and not consider that as a task if they were already scheduled in the diary. So there are many different ways that you can improve on this. Quite happy to share my prompt that I use there if it would be beneficial to you. However, that's good. That gives me a list of tasks that I have every day from Google Chat. What that doesn't necessarily do is give me a fresh list every day. I'm just going to have this ever-growing list of Google Chat responses. So what I would do and what I would like, because a lot of the messages that I get on Google Chat, I want to consider them and decide where they should go or what should happen from them. I decide if they go into my to-do list or if they're just like transitory and, you know, I'll get back to you at some point in the future kind of tasks. Then, or I'll wait for someone to chase me kind of tasks. Then I only like to see the ones from yesterday and validate that I've done them. So what I would do is I would actually have in this process, I would use the tasks from yesterday to validate that I'm not repeating tasks today. So someone sending me the same kind of message today, or talking about the same kind of thing that has already been on my task list yesterday. So what I would do is I would bring in a get sheet content step. I would move that up to the top of this workflow. I would then go to my spreadsheet that I created with my tasks in it. Now it has yesterday's tasks in it. I'm going to say for task name, any task that exists in this spreadsheet, I want to bring back. And then I'll get Gemini to not recreate tasks that were already created for me yesterday. You find the relevant tasks here, and then I'll provide these tasks to I would obviously go through and add all these individually, but for now I'm just going to include a link to the spreadsheet because it can go and access it. Yeah, do not include these tasks again today. So to try and avoid tasks coming up again and again and again, maybe a bot is sending you a message every day, something like that you want to try and avoid. And then what I will do is before clear rows. Before my loop actually runs and starts adding today's tasks, so this step goes and gets today's tasks, considers yesterday's tasks. Maybe if I write enough in the prompt, it considers my future meetings and things like that and starts to make a really refined task list for me. I would actually go ahead and I would clear my spreadsheet of tasks. So task name is anything. Alternatively, if you had a way of marking tasks as done and your studio workflow was able to do that, or through a process of you just working in the spreadsheet, you mark them as done, you could obviously then go ahead and just choose done in a status column here to get rid of only specific tasks. But because I'm using this transitory, I'm just going to get rid of all of them. And then as my loop runs for the day, it's going to add today's tasks. So currently we have 3 in here. Again, I was really expecting 4. I don't know why only 3 came in. If I run this again, obviously they're going to be that now I should actually expect none, or maybe the one that didn't make it into the spreadsheet in the first place, because now it's checking what yesterday's tasks were, even though they're today's. Sorry, that I imagine that is quite a confusing statement for me to say. So daily, go and look at yesterday's tasks, bring me back today's tasks, or sorry, go and look at the tasks that you created for me yesterday. Go and look at the tasks that have been created in the last day inside my Google chat. Clear out the spreadsheet that had yesterday's tasks in it. Now add all the ones that are about today. Oh, these are all different. Like, I guess maybe my initial prompt wasn't strong enough to go and get every task that maybe were associated to me, or people while I've been on this chat have been sending me some tasks to do after this. But now I have 3 new tasks to do in here. So that's one of the workflows that you could go ahead and build. The key takeaways here are that you can get access to your Google chat context with Ask Gemini and Google Workspace flows. You can also get access to Google chat context in your Gemini if you head over to Gemini and ask it for information there. But this lets you do stuff with it. So at the very least, you can add it to a spreadsheet. You may wish to start storing it over time, maybe some of your messages with in specific groups that you have. You could start pulling those out and using those as context. Something that a bunch of our teams actually do is they will have a Notebook LM instance set up for all communications that happen around a specific event or a specific client. And what this would be able to do, obviously, is pull out the information from any chats that you have and shift that into a spreadsheet that then gets ingested into the Notebook LM instance as well. So you're not missing potentially quite important chat threads or even email threads that could also be included in this, in that like knowledge base that you're creating around that client or around that project or around that task. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully not too complicated for you to have a try. The next one I wanted to quickly build was a competitor intelligence step. So you could do this in a few different ways. What's the best way of doing this? The best way of me showing this. I'm going to create a spreadsheet just because people use spreadsheets a lot. I could do this just purely with Ask Gemini, but this then gives us some other place information too. Let's say my competitors. I'm then going to run an AI function. So if you don't know, inside Google Sheets, you can run AI using Gemini, and you can get it to populate information for you. I could use the sidebar here if I wanted to, but I just wanted to show that this is an option too. Find me competitors of algomarketing.com. Well, let's just see what comes back. I imagine we might actually get some duplicates using this method. I should probably have said, just bring me back one name rather than a big list of names. Yeah, not great prompting from me. I apologize. I should be fired. There they all are, all exactly the same. I've never heard of any of those companies either. Why don't I pick a different company other than Algomarketing? Amazon. And hopefully we get some reasonable data back. It's just checking who Amazon's competitors might be. I guess they are quite monopolistic. Hope that isn't liable for me to say. Come on, just put some Amazon competitors in the spreadsheet for me, please. Great. Look at it happen in real time. Check back in a few minutes. It won't take a few minutes, everyone. I promise. It will be super quick. Watch this. It's happening in real time as we speak. At least it's going to add a clean and professional font across the table for us once it eventually adds something. Here we go. Look at this. Perfect. So we've got competitor name, the sector they're in, their key strength, and their scale / what their metric is. So the size of the company. Beautiful spreadsheet. Thank you, Gemini. Still going, so I don't want to add my own columns just in case it starts to add its own. I don't know what it's trying to update now. Well, I'm just going to keep going. Let's say let's add a new column. For competitor research, maybe another one for risk to us, maybe another one for like 7-day plan. So here's our beautiful spreadsheet. Some new columns: competitor research, risk to us, and our 7-day plan. I'm now going to go back to my loop. What I want to do is get the information from that spreadsheet that I just created. So let's go down to here again, get sheet contents. Again, sorry about my icons. I don't know why they're not there. Choose my new spreadsheet that I just created, my competitor digest. And then I'll choose sheet 1, and then I've got the fields that I want to return. So I want to return all of them. So again, I'm just going to choose any in this column. I could choose empty. I could choose a specific value from a specific column. Again, worth having a play around if you haven't tried this function, this step before. And then I'm going to run a loop again. So let's repeat for each. This time I'm going to choose the contents from my spreadsheet. So instead of it being a list generated by Gemini, this time it's specific list from my spreadsheet. And inside, I'm going to run an Ask Gemini step. And this Ask Gemini step is going to be going research that competitor about stuff that might impact our business. So we are Amazon.com. Please do some research about what this competitor has been up to in the last week. And I might go into lots of detail about the types of products that I care about, or the types of things that they might do that might impact our business, or what their social media strategy looks like this week. Obviously, just trying to keep this as quick and generic as possible. Please do add some reasonable information in here. And what I will do is I will provide my variables. So these are coming from my spreadsheet. So I will provide my, excuse me. I'm going to refresh this page. The icons have come back. That's nice. I'm going to provide my, hopefully, names, like any information. Have I not set this up properly? So competitor name is any. Do I need to go back to Gemini and accept that this information is real? No, that is definitely in this spreadsheet. Forgive me. I'm going to try refreshing it. I'm using the wrong step. Everyone makes mistakes. I should use this repeat for each step because this is where all the individual values are. Terrible of me. I apologize. So I'm going to bring in the competitor name. The competitor. I can't even remember what the values are. Primary sector. We don't need sector. Probably don't need size. I don't need key strength or differentiator. So let's just say this is the competitor name. And I need to populate three. Actually, I don't need to include that there either. I'll go down the bottom. I'm going to choose a list. I know that I've got 3 fields that I need to populate with the information that comes back from this research. And those 3 fields, I don't want them to, maybe I do want them to use my workspace to find out what's good about our products versus their products potentially. Again, I'm going to choose custom structured data. And the 3 fields that I want to fill out are my competitor research column, my risk to us column, and my 7-day plan column. Now you'll notice I haven't actually included these in the prompt. I could write, if I wanted to, rich information about what these things are in the prompt, but actually these get injected into the prompt anyway. So if I have a rich description, then Gemini is going to know that it needs to search for these specific things that impact these results that it needs to create data for. So my competitor research, general research around the competitor over the last week. What the risk to us is, what the competitor has been doing for the last week. High, medium, low. And then 7-day plan, what we should do to mitigate this risk. Let's see what this does. So what this is going to do is on a schedule, which happens to be 8 a.m. every day. It's going to go and get my competitors from this list, and I can obviously add as many competitors to this list as I like. And then it's going to, for every single one of those people in that list, ask Gemini to run some research for me and return back 3 fields. Let's run this and just make sure it works before I go ahead and wire up the spreadsheet. So go off and grab our sheet contents, 13 items. It's now running an Ask Gemini step for every single one of those 13 items. Obviously, if you have 300, you might burn through your usage for the day. So consider that. I might not wait until the end. This could take some time. I'd like to be able to see one result though. I'd like also to be able to press this button and this still keep working, but I don't think it does. I might just wire this up and we'll just see if it works. I imagine it will work. Go on. I'm just going to chuck it into the spreadsheet. It's going to work anyway. So add to row. spreadsheet, add to row, choose my spreadsheet, my competitor list. Obviously today I've been working in the same spreadsheet in the same workflow. I could pull information out of one workflow and send that to a different spreadsheet, or do something else in that other spreadsheet based on the information that I pulled from that first one. You don't have to work in the same spreadsheet. I also need to, if you're probably seeing this already, I added this step at the bottom. This is going to only add a row once. So in this case, it would only add that row for the last row that goes through this workflow. I need this to be in my loop. So now every time Ask Gemini runs, the next step is to add that row to our spreadsheet. Let's see our spreadsheet. So I'm going to add it. No, I don't want to add, do I? I want to update. Update rows. If I added, it would obviously go directly to the bottom. I've already got existing rows that I wanted to update. Choose my spreadsheet. So I've only got one sheet. So this is going to be telling me which rows I want to update. So I can choose one of my fields. If I had a unique identifier, obviously I would choose that. In this case, it probably is the competitor name that is my unique identifier. And then I would pick the value that is the unique identifier. Because I can't pick it, choose the same one every time. Instead, I'm going to add a variable. And that variable is going to be the competitor name from the loop that I'm in. And so each time it goes through this loop, the competitor name is going to be the next one in the list. And therefore, I'll update the competitor name of that next one in the list each time. And then I'm going to set the values. So let's say competitor research is going to be the data that Ask Gemini has come back with. So that's going to be our competitor research. It's going to be our risk to us. And it's going to be our 7-day plan. And now, oh look, came back. Excellent. It does still run in the background. That's good to know. 2 of them failed though. So it's come back with the competitor research on Walmart, vibe.co, what the 7-day plan should look like, and what the risk to us is. So apparently if we're Amazon, Walmart is really trying to take our lunch because they're releasing something that's similar to Prime Video. Don't know if that is relevant to you. Let me try testing this once more. We should see it go in the spreadsheet. And while that's running, I will pause because I don't think I have time to do another one, nor do you probably want to actually watch me try and fumble through another one on this call. But I've got time if anyone wanted to ask any questions or ask if a use case with Google Workspace flows might be possible, or anything you've actually built and you'd be interested to just share what you've built. While we wait for this to run, and then we get to see the beautiful output in our spreadsheet. That was quicker this time. So you'll notice it works every time the loop runs. All of the activities in that loop runs before it moves to the next one, as you might imagine. But here now in one spreadsheet, I have all of my research, all what the risk is to us, so I can prioritize it, and what the 7-day plan should look like for what we should do. What I could do now, if you haven't tried this already, is I could create a canvas based on this information. Creating a canvas that lets me plan for my week based on the competitor intelligence. And this, I'm sure, will probably create me something that looks nice and also enables me to look at just the highest, most risky things that we should be working towards. And it may even create me a bit of a to-do list to deliver that week. I mentioned this on a call with some of our algos last week. These canvases are really, really nice for showing your data in a different way, or maybe giving someone some controls that they didn't have before. So you could add, for example, through a canvas, a form to the spreadsheet. So someone fills out the form and then that puts a line into the spreadsheet on their behalf. And this is good when maybe they might get some of the data wrong, or there's additional data you need to add in the background and not let someone be able to see it or manipulate it. Or if you wanted to add validation to a form and you didn't like the alert box style validation that pops up with Google Sheets. You can also, if you wanted to get retrieve data from third-party services through these canvases, assuming that they are open. So I could go and get, say, some weather data, or if I had an open source of data that was relevant to me, I could bring that through a canvas too. I'm hoping it'll be built in a second. You can see what a canvas looks like if you haven't seen one before. But these tools are just getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Look at that. Could include chat in Google Drive, in Google Sheets sidebar too. Maybe I could just come here and say, get me my tasks from yesterday, and it would just add them here, and that would save us a job that we've just done. Here it comes. Look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? Like, I've got my own Kanban board where I can plan out what my week should look like. Well, that's quite smart. And my risk matrix, Alibaba in particular, and Walmart, they're the ones we need to watch. Cool. Thank you for coming, guys. Hopefully that was useful. If you do make any workflows, please do let us know what they are. There may be use cases that you build that would benefit many other people. Currently inside Google Workspace flows, I would love to just say I can share this with you, which obviously there is a button that says I can share it with you. But the challenge is if you've connected to any spreadsheets, those spreadsheets, they would need to create themselves and add in all the fields, and then you need to reconfigure all the steps. So the only ones that are really useful to share at this point in time are like maybe prompts that you do to ask Gemini that then just use that information in the flow, and yeah, don't connect to many other services. So like the sharing functionality in here is at the moment really limited. In future, they do say that they'll let you work with shared files again, which would mean that we'd be able to share workflows and then connect up to other people. But currently, if you try and connect up a shared workflow, like something with a shared file, you won't be able to. Yeah, thank you guys for coming, and yeah, do let us know if you build anything interesting, because we might be able to roll it out across more people. Thank you.